Banshee is a ghost type that picks and chooses who it wants to kill, and makes that target its immediate priority. This ghost type has EMF 5, freezing temperatures, and SLS anomaly evidences. This ghost can begin hunting naturally when the player this ghost is targeting sanity reaches 50% or lower. The target player is determined at the beginning of the match, and will only change once the target is fully killed. This means if the target has cat kit or is revived, they will still be the target after their first death. During hunts, Banshee will only chase their target player. If this player is not inside the investigation zone, it will chase other players as normally. If the player uses a parabolic microphone within 28 steps of the ghost room, there's a chance for Banshee to make a distinct screech into the microphone. This is the most consistent way to test for this ghost type in single player. In addition to this, Banshee is more likely to throw the parabolic microphone than other ghosts when doing a throw interaction. Banshee is also more likely to do the crying ghost event than most other ghost types. Demon is a ghost type of fierce and unpredictable activity. This ghost type has freezing temperatures, ghost writing, and spirit box evidences. This ghost can begin hunting naturally when the average sanity of all players reaches 90% or lower. Demons are extremely aggressive in terms of their personalities, often doing ghost events and interactions at amplified rates. Demons' traits are very centered around the crucifix item. For starters, when a crucifix is placed, a circle showing a range can be seen around it. For Demon, this range is actually 40 studs further out than each direction than the circle shows, meaning Demon's range to burn a crucifix is actually much greater. Testing for Demon's range can be as simple as leaving the crucifix in the location where the range of the crucifix does not overlap with the ghost room. When you leave a crucifix for a Demon, odds are it will stay in place, as although it can throw them, Demon has a heavily reduced chance to throw the crucifix. Upon actually burning the crucifix, there is a 1 in 30 chance for a secret reaction to occur from Demon, where the crucifix will turn crimson red and be launched, followed by a loud roar. Additionally, after crucifix is used, if you are not using the No Crucifixes challenge, Demon will be unable to attempt to hunt for another 80 seconds, as opposed to the 40-second cooldown that other ghosts have. Faejkur is a ghost type centered around deception and mimicry. This ghost type has EMF 5, freezing temperatures, and ghost writing evidences. This ghost type will begin to hunt naturally when the average sanity of all players is 50% or lower. Locating the ghost room is a key aspect of how this ghost type can be identified. Surrounding its source location, Faejkur is listening to a variety of sounds made by you or itself. It can mimic a wide variety of different sounds that I will go into detail about at the end of this segment. Overall though, Faejkur will listen to sounds and remember them, keeping any sounds it hears in its memory for 2 minutes. These sounds are important as every 20 seconds or so, Faejkur will choose a position in the ghost room at random and relay one of the sounds in its memory bank at a lower pitched volume. This can be any location, meaning in larger spaces, it may be important to constantly be moving around the ghost room to catch one. It's also important to note that the parabolic microphone cannot pick up Faejkur's own mimicked sounds. Sometimes, it is too unsafe to stay in the ghost room. In this scenario, I highly recommend the use of the trail camera. After placing a trail camera in a room, you as the player can either view that camera via the van laptop or the tablet Game Pass. The ghost will frequently encourage this camera to make noise through interacting with it, the sound it makes being one that Faejkur can remember and mimic. Although Faejkur's mimic sound cannot be heard through the paramic, they can however be heard through the video cameras, so you can use these cameras to listen for Faejkur sounds. Additionally, Faejkur also has the ability to create false footsteps while hunting. About halfway through hunting, this ghost type will trigger an ability, dropping it at a location on the map. When the ghost walks away from this location, that point will begin to make footstep noises, then travel in a random direction. Finally, sounds that Faejkur can mimic in full are
the car alarm,
a closet closing, a closet opening, a door closing, a door opening, a door slamming, the fling sound effect from a ghost throwing something, ghost knocking, then leave a message after the beep sound from the phone, a locker closing, a locker opening, a light switch, a metal door closing, like the door on Area 51, although we don't have the map right now, metal doors opening, phone ringing, salt placed, salt stepped on, TV static, the tent zipping sound, typing, like with a computer on Roadhouse, water running, window shattering, wooden door closing, wooden door opening, like the sounds of the doors on the chapel, candle igniting and candle blowing out, a basketball bouncing, glass, the metal pipe, metal, the plastic bottle, the plate crashing sound, a soda can, the toy item of the throwables, and Maxwell the cat. Otherwise, it can mimic things like the EMF reader, the spirit box, the burning crucifix, and the trail camera. Harrow is a territorial ghost type whose strength is centered on its ghost room. This ghost type has ghost writing, ghost orbs, and SLS anomaly evidences. This ghost type will begin to hunt naturally when the average sanity of all players is at 50% or lower. Harrow will choose one room in a location and make that room its favorite room. Harrow cannot roam the way other ghosts can, only ever spawning or doing ghost events in its favorite room. Given that Harrow can never change rooms, the chariot card will always be ineffective if you're dealing with a Harrow, always showing the Fool. This means that if you pull the chariot and it works, you may rule out Harrow as a ghost type. As it is territorial, Harrow will become more aggressive with each additional player that is present in the ghost room, increasing the number of ghost events it will do, as well as increasing the speed it will hunt at, if within the hunting threshold. The most notable trait of this ghost comes from its hunting ability. Harrow will never speed up when in line of sight of a player, but will rather base its speed on the distance that it is to the ghost room. Harrow will start at a fast speed within the ghost room and get progressively slower as it gets further away from the ghost room. Lament is a ghost type full of jokes and trickery. This ghost type has EMF 5, Spirit Box, and Ghost Orbs. This ghost type will begin to hunt naturally when the average sanity of all players is at 50% or lower. Lament will engage in activity as all normal ghosts do. When Lament performs the Manifestation Ghost event, there is a small chance that this ghost type will deplete the stamina of all players nearby. Its most notable trait occurs in its hunting phase. For starters, Lament is one of few ghosts that will not speed up in line of sight, meaning as it sees you for longer periods of time, its speed will stay exactly the same, making it a very loopable ghost. Telling this ghost type apart can be very simple, yet very scary if you aren't keeping an eye out for it. Midway through hunting, Lament will fake end its hunting phase, ending disruption on electronic equipment, lights, and hunt effects. EMF readers will stop beeping, lights will all turn off, and things like your heartbeat, night vision disruption, and SLS disruption, among other things, will all stop occurring. The ghost will continue to move for the duration of the hunt, and the door will stay locked. Noticing the stopping and disruption is key to differentiating Lament from other ghost types. If you aren't very face-to-face with the ghost, or want to help from outside, note that the van itself will make disruption noises when the ghost is hunting. When Lament fake ends hunting, this will stop. If the van disruption stops, but the front door is still locked, you can instantly tell that you are dealing with a Lament. Mare is a ghost type who embraces darkness at every opportunity. This ghost type has freezing temperatures, spirit box, and ghost orb evidences. This ghost type will begin to hunt naturally when the average sanity of all players is at 50% or lower. Mare loves to exist in darkness, greatly preferring to inhabit rooms without light. Mare will never turn on light switches and are more likely to turn off the breaker than other ghosts. Mare is very unlikely to hunt in a room with lights on, and is more likely to prioritize turning the lights off when one is on in its current room. When Mare does turn off a light though, there is a 1 in 20 chance that it will force the light breaking ghost event, where the lights instantly blow out. When the player turns the light on, there is a small chance for Mare to instantly flick the light switch back off, which can also trigger the 1 in 20 chance of the lights breaking. Meaning if you dedicate enough time to forcing Mare to turn off the light, it'll take a while, but eventually it will break the lights. When the lights are off, Mare is more likely to engage in ghost events and activity. Mare's activity will exclude some throwing events though, as Mare will be far less likely to throw flashlights, strong flashlights, burned crucifixes, and lighters. Finally, Mare has a trait where it has an increased range of 90 studs rather than 40 to blow out all candles. This means that Mare will blow out candles that cross over much greater distances in the location. Nook is a ghost type, born from souls of extreme greed. This ghost type has EMF 5, freezing temperatures, and ghost orbs. This ghost type will begin to hunt naturally when the average sanity of all players is at 50% or lower, but also has a trait where when this ghost is happy, its hunting threshold decreases to 25%. Nook is a ghost type that spawns into a completely random room, just as all ghost types do, but is immediately, likely, unhappy. When Nook spawns, it instantly checks each and every room, counting up the total number of items in each room. These items count up both naturally spawning items like plates or stuffed animals, and etc., and equipment from the van. Everything counts as one singular item. Nooks will be happiest when they are in a room that they feel has the most items in it, satisfying their greed. Nook is one of the roamiest ghost types in the game, while it is in its unhappy state, capable of switching rooms perhaps up to twice a minute in order to make its way closer to a room that makes it happy. Nook will really only roam locally, so if it does not spawn anywhere near the room that it knows has the most items, it will settle with a room close to where it spawned with a significant amount of items, more than its current room. When Nook is finally in the room that it considers the most full of items, it will switch states from unhappy to happy. This is when Nook will change its hunting threshold to 25% instead of 50%. It's important to note that Nook will change its favorite room when it roams, not just the ghost room. When Nook is happy, it will no longer care to roam and will stay in its favorite room that makes it happy. Unless, of course, it detects there is another room nearby with more items than its current one. Nook can actually contribute to the number of items in each room itself, as when it does a throwing interaction, there is a 50% chance that it will steal an item it throws instead of throwing it, making the item vanish from the map, leaving a brief cloud of air. Nook can steal both natural items and vital van equipment. Poltergeist is a ghost type that loves to be an active part of the environment around it. This ghost type has spirit blocks, ultraviolet, and ghost orbs. This ghost type will begin to hunt naturally when the average sanity of all players is at 50% or lower. Poltergeist loves to engage with its surroundings, often participating in interactions. Poltergeist has the super rare ability to perform 2 interactions at the same time. Keep an eye out for increased rates of interactions mid-hunt, as Poltergeist may perform interactions often regardless of if it's hunting or not. Poltergeist has an exclusive ability when many items are detected in the ghost room, where it can throw as many as 10 objects at the same time, popularly known as a Poltsplosion. This does not mean that there have to be 10 items in a room, but just that it can throw that many objects in a single Poltsplosion. Revenant is a ghost type, deadly to those who are unlucky enough to be in its sights. This ghost type has EMF 5, ultraviolet, and ghost writing. This ghost type will begin to hunt naturally when the average sanity of all players is at 50% or lower. Revenant is a simple but deadly ghost type, being identifiable during hunts exclusively. Revenant will begin hunting in its ghost room at an extraordinarily slow speed and continue at this speed indefinitely unless it gains line of sight of a player. When Revenant gains line of sight of a player, For a duration of time that is within line of sight, it will gain an incredible speed boost and chase the player. To best survive this ghost type, I recommend always having an incense burner on hand. They are life-saving. After using a burner, or in the event that you are trying to outrun a Revenant, use walls to break line of sight with Revenant in order to force it back to its slower speed. Then continue moving as fast as possible either to a hiding spot or to a room further away from Revenant. Take advantage of how slow Revenant moves while out of line of sight in order to survive its deadly speed. Shade is a ghost type that prefers to be left alone and isn't so active. This ghost type has EMF 5, ghost writing, and SLS anomaly evidences. This ghost type will begin to hunt naturally when the average sanity of all players is at 35% or lower. Shade, being very shy, really only enjoys interacting with its environment when it's all alone. When a player is in the ghost room, activity from Shade will be reduced by 80%. This ghost is also incapable of performing manifestations or performing fake hunt events. Shade is much more likely to perform crying events, similar to the way that Banshee is. Shade will generally have a slower hunt rate than other ghosts, meaning it may take much longer for Shade to decide to hunt than other ghosts when it's within its hunting threshold or below. When the summoning circle is present and the ghost is summoned, Shade will never actually hunt from being summoned, but rather appear in a transparent form and then vanish a few seconds after being manifested at the circle. Spirit is a ghost type that heavily revolves around the incense burner item. This ghost type has ultraviolet, ghost writing, and spirit box. This ghost type will begin to hunt naturally when the average sanity of all players is at 50% or lower. Spirit is a ghost type that has a unique reaction to the burner, both inside and outside of the hunting phase. When cleansing Spirit, an extra 2 minutes will be added to the time that the ghost cannot hunt, bringing it up to 3 minutes. During hunts, when you use an incense burner against a spirit, it will be stunned for 6 seconds instead of the normal 2 for all other ghosts. Finally, if you happen to have used all of your burners without being able to tell if the ghost was a spirit, there is still a risky way to tell it apart from other ghosts. Spirit will have a much lower chance to throw the incense burner when doing a throw interaction, so one can be placed either in the ghost room or out in the open for a ghost to throw in order to test for spirit. Strigoi is an aquatically centered ghost type who thrives around water. This ghost type has EMF 5, ultraviolet, and ghost orbs. This ghost type will be on a hunt naturally when the average sanity of all players is at 50% or below. Strigoi is often associated with sinks, given that it loves to interact with them. It will turn on active sources of water frequently. Strigoi has a special response to sinks being turned off. Potentially enraged at the player turning them off, there is a small chance for the ghost to be in a cursed hunt if the sink is turned off. Otherwise, if a cursed hunt is not started, Strigoi has a 1 in 3 chance to perform an interaction of some kind instead of starting a cursed hunt. Through Strigoi's ultraviolet evidence, there is a chance for it to leave behind a 4-fingered print on doors rather than the standard 5-fingered handprint that other ghosts do. If the ghost interacts with the same door multiple times, there is a chance for this 5-fingered handprint to stack with the 4-fingered handprint and show an odd 6-fingered handprint. A little bit of a tongue twister, but yes, this would instantly indicate a Strigoi. When Strigoi performs the phone call ghost event, where the phone rings for a while, there is a 50% chance for Strigoi to answer and only play a water sound in the phone instead of the standard voice response. So don't be so quick to decline a phone call if you're lucky enough to get one. Otherwise, Strigoi is mostly popularly identified during the hunting phase. Strigoi will have a noticeably longer period of time where it is both visible but then invisible while blinking in and out of sight. The invisibility period makes it very difficult to loop this ghost, so I recommend having a burner present. To make this ghost more dangerous, when near a source of water mid-hunt, Strigoi will become completely invisible, so definitely be careful near sinks. Vuult is a ghost type that depends on the perfect amount of electrical charge. This ghost type has EMF 5, ghost orbs, and SLS anomaly evidences. This ghost type will begin to hunt naturally based on its own system known as charge. Charge is a system that is exclusive to Vuult, where different electronic sources contribute to the total amount that Vuult is charged at. Vuult will start its match off at 0 charge and try to reach an ideal amount of it. Each piece of electrical equipment in the van, such as EMF readers, SLS cameras, and etc., a full list will be included at the end of the segment, will all contribute 2 charge to Vuult's strength. They will only add to the charge count when they are dropped in the ghost room. They don't count if they're in your hands. In addition, every player themselves also counts for 1 charge. Very importantly, the breaker contributes 5 charge when turned on, no matter how far from the ghost room it is. Now that you have an idea of how charge works, let's talk about the sanity threshold system. Vuult will begin at a 0% sanity threshold, meaning it will only hunt if the average sanity of all players is at 0%. For every charge level that Vuult gets, it will increase the hunting threshold up by 10%. For example, the breaker adds 5 charge to Vuult, so if turned on, Vuult will start hunting when the average sanity of all players is at 50% instead. Vuult, if at 10 charge or more, can hunt players at 100% sanity, making this one of the most deadly ghosts in a well-powered house. Vuult's activity is based on its charge, meaning when it's at a low charge, it may perform fewer ghost events or just be less active in general. At lower charges, Vuult is also more likely to turn on the breaker, wanting to be at a higher charge. So look out for early breaker interactions when suspecting a Vuult. On the other hand, when Vult's charge gets to a higher point, it'll start to do more interactions and spike up in the rate that it's doing them. So as you bring more electronics in, you might start to compare your Vuult to, say, Demon or other active ghosts who are doing lots of interactions. As a Vuult reaches a higher charge, it'll also be more likely to turn off the breaker, and it will stop turning on light switches as well. Although light switches and lights being on do not affect charge whatsoever at all. When the ghost reaches 16 charge, through your electronics being brought inside, the ghost unlocks an ability it can do with the EMF reader. Firstly, the ghost will be more likely to throw the EMF reader at this charge, but the real interest comes from the fact that if the ghost throws an EMF reader when at 16 charge, it will actually have a chance to completely smash the EMF reader. Now, for testing this, what I recommend doing is once you're at 16 charge, take an EMF reader out of the ghost room and put it in the center of somewhere that you're going to loop the ghost, so that you can manually force the ghost to actually throw the EMF reader. Now clear out every other item from the looping spot, so you know that the ghost has a higher chance to only throw that EMF reader. Now, you can very safely rule out Vuult if you actually see it toss the EMF reader. Maybe see if it does it twice. But if it actually throws the EMF reader, you can probably rule out Vuult. It's also important to note that for the ghost to actually be able to smash the EMF reader, the ghost room has to be at 16 charge before the hunt starts, and that charge can't include the EMF reader that you're using to loop with, because the charge has to fully come from the ghost room. Equipment that Vuult is affected by includes the EMF reader, parabolic microphone, trail camera, video camera, spirit box, flashlight, strong flashlight, thermometer, UV light, and the SLS camera. Wraith is a sneaky ghost type that hovers around locations quickly. This ghost type has freezing temperatures, ghost orbs, and SLS anomaly evidences. This ghost type will begin to hunt naturally when the average sanity of all players is at 50% or lower. Wraith loves to roam around, moving around decently quickly, though slightly less than the fastest roamers like Nook or Yama. Wraiths love to move around, but they also love to do so stealthily, leaving behind as little evidence of their presence as possible. When the salt item is used against Wraith, it will not step in it at all, completely avoiding it. When hunting, the same applies, as when Wraith walks over a pile of salt, it will not be stepped in. A very simple test for Wraith is to set up salt in its path and see if it is stepped in. Wraith's ability to float is easily noticeable when it performs the Manifestation Ghost event, or will proceed to float above the ground rather than stand posed. Finally, Wraith has a secret ability with the EMF reader where they will choose a player and teleport to their current location so long as they're inside. This is picked up on the EMF reader via an EMF2 reading. Yama is a ghost type that loves to roam more than anything, and forces you to be the one who's really hunting it down. This ghost type has freezing temperatures, spirit box, and SLS anomaly evidences. This ghost type will begin to hunt naturally when the average sanity of all players is at 50% or lower. Yama absolutely loves to constantly move around, making it a very tough ghost to pinpoint the location of. Prior to the update introducing the SLS camera, it was known to roam very little, but this was heavily buffed in said update. Yama will roam at approximately the same rate that Nook does while looking for its favorite room, but Yama will constantly do so without any direction. Every time Yama roams, rather than make its new destination a temporary ghost room, it will make its new destination the favorite room until it changes positions again. While in its favorite room, temperatures will noticeably drop much faster than in other rooms, being a key way to identify if it's in a room. When you find a Yama's current room, you don't have much time before it moves on, so you have to collect evidences quickly. Fortunately, when collecting spirit box evidence from Yama has a distinct roar it can do into the box, making it very easily identified. If you find you've got a Yama in a room without a doubt, you may want to cleanse the room, as a cleansed Yama cannot roam at all for 2 minutes following being cleansed. A card like the Hermit or the Chariot may also help greatly in identifying the ghost room, as the Hermit will keep the ghost in the ghost room, or in Yama's case the favorite room, for 1 whole minute, while a Chariot will bring the ghost to you until it roams again, which may be very quick, making the Chariot a little less reliable than the Hermit. In no evidence, the roaming nature of this ghost, minus having direction like Nook does, the very easiest way of identifying it. Granted, of course, you do a salt check for Wraith to make sure you're definitely dealing with a Yama. A little bit of process of elimination between the roamiest ghosts. Yurei is a ghost type that both has a hard time seeing and chasing. This ghost type has freezing temperatures, spirit box, and ultraviolet evidences. This ghost type will begin to hunt naturally when the average sanity of all players is at 50% or lower. Yurei is a ghost type similar to Lament, but will not speed up when in line of sight of a player, meaning as the ghost sees you for longer, it will stay the same speed. Yurei is a much simpler ghost than most others, mainly only being tested by its speed, and whether or not it does anything beyond not speeding up, often compared to Lament for having the same speed traits. Basically, if you have a non-speeding ghost that simply chases you with no signs of Lament, you're dealing with a Yurei. Yurei additionally has a trait where if the player stood still, completely still, the ghost will ignore you, unable to see you. This trait is a little finicky and is often difficult to rely on, making its speed trait much more reliable during gameplay. ZoZo is a ghost type you don't want to turn your back on. This ghost type has EMF 5, Spirit Box, and Ultraviolet. This ghost type will begin to hunt naturally when the average sanity of all players is at 80% or lower. ZoZo is a ghost type whose lore is deeply connected to the spirit board cursed objects. When the ghost type is a ZoZo, the odds of having the spirit board are doubled as opposed to the other cursed objects. When actually interacting with the spirit board, with each question type, there is a 50% chance for ZoZo to override the normal response you are going to get and just say ZoZo. The text on the board will go red, and you'll be forced to break the board, unable to say goodbye. A consequence of revealing the ghost type. During hunts, ZoZo has a unique behavior. It will begin hunting at a faster speed, comparable to Harrow at its quicker speed, and when stared at directly by a player, will slow down significantly to a lower than the player's ghost speed. Depending on the average sanity level, as shown on screen, ZoZo will become less tolerant to being stared at over time. After a time dependent on sanity has passed, ZoZo will become enraged and do a distinct roar, followed by the ghost becoming extremely fast regardless of if stared at or not, for about 10 seconds. If you wish to loop ZoZo, it is recommended that you control how long both you and your teammates are staring at the ghost to prevent it from becoming enraged. Additionally, ZoZo will never perform the Crying Ghost event, and is more likely to perform the Red Light Ghost event. Overall, ZoZo is a very active ghost, similar to the demon, but you'll likely discover it by a hunt before you ever need to base judgment on activity.